Welcome everyone to the Things Around 8. Dear friends, in this video we will talk about the revelation made by Vladimir Putin about his objective with the offensive he launched against Kharkiv on May 10th. Russia launched a heavy attack against the Kharkiv Ablast, an attack that, according to several sources, is made up of a force estimated at up to 40,000 Russian soldiers, belonging to new army units that were created now in early 2024. In other words, from what we know so far, this attack is being conducted by Russian forces that have not been withdrawn from other sectors of the invasion. The Russian assault was divided into 3 columns, with one aimed at Vovishansky, another entering through Krasny and aiming at Lipetsky, and a third, the smallest, against Chupiny. It was an attack that, in a way, was already expected by Ukraine. Due to the 6-month delay in approving the package of almost $61 billion in military aid from the United States, Ukraine has almost completely exhausted its stocks of weapons and ammunition, giving Russia the opportunity to advance in a series of sectors, with emphasis on Vidivka, which was conquered by the Russians precisely due to the lack of sufficient weapons and ammunition in Ukrainian hands. But now, after the approval at the end of April of the almost $61 billion package, Putin knows that in a few weeks, Ukrainian soldiers will have their stocks fully replenished with new weapons and ammunition. Therefore, this is the ideal time to attack, taking advantage of the fact that the weapons have not yet started to arrive in full force. Therefore, in a way, everyone already knew that Russia would attempt a new major offensive, with many predicting that this attack would be against the regions of Kharkiv, Kherson and Odessa. There is, for now, no evidence that Russia will attempt a new major offensive against Kherson and Odessa, which seems to indicate that, at least for now, all Russian efforts are concentrated against Kharkiv. But although this attack was not a complete surprise for the Ukrainians, its strength was surprising, leaving a very important question in the air. What exactly is Russia's objective with this attack? In recent days, 2 main hypotheses have emerged, with one of them arguing that Putin's objective was to surround and invade Kharkiv, the second largest Ukrainian city and the country's main defense industrial hub. Conquering Kharkiv was one of Putin's initial objectives when he invaded Ukraine on February 24, 2022. However, despite the strength and violence of his attack, Russia failed in this objective, with the Russians eventually being expelled from the occupied regions of Kharkiv in the Ukrainian counter-offensive of September 2022, which liberated a total of more than 15,000 square kilometers in that oblast and also in the Kherson Oblast. This would be, in the opinion of some analysts, a second Russian attempt to occupy that important city to deprive Ukraine of one of its main defense industrial hubs and, just as important, of its second largest population center capable of providing tens of thousands of new soldiers for the Ukrainian army. The other hypothesis put forward by many would be the creation of a buffer zone between Ukraine and the Russian region of Belgorod, to make it difficult for Ukrainian attacks to be carried out against that Russian oblast. A hypothesis that was confirmed this Friday, May 17th, by Vladimir Putin himself, who said during a press conference in China, on the last day of his state visit to the country, that the objective of the Russian attack is indeed to create a buffer zone between Russia and Ukraine. In his statement, Putin said that he had already mentioned this several times and that now he has finally decided to move forward. According to Colonel General Alexander Syrsky, Commander-in-Chief of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, the Russians launched this attack on May 10th because they confirmed the reinforcement of Ukrainian stocks of weapons and ammunition in that sector, with the Ukrainian commander also reporting that before the Russian attack, Ukraine had deployed a new reserve brigade in the region, with this movement having been detected by Moscow, which, in view of this, decided to advance before the complete Ukrainian reinforcement of the border. According to many analysts, the Russian force deployed in the region, estimated at more than 40,000 soldiers, is insufficient to surround, invade and occupy Kharkiv. But it may be enough to occupy some sectors of the border in the Vovishansky, Lipetsky and Chupiny regions, thereby bringing Russian artillery even closer to the city of Kharkiv, which will give the Russians an additional means to cause even more damage in that important Ukrainian city. But General Syrsky reported that Ukraine is not ruling out other scenarios, such as a Russian attack on Sumy, 100 kilometers northwest of Kharkiv. Among so many questions and doubts, there is at least one very clear fact in the midst of all this. Russia knows that the flow of U.S. weapons to Ukraine has already resumed with full force, and that is why they need to move forward urgently, and with full force to occupy as much as they can get from Ukraine, before these new weapons and ammunition manage to stagnate on the combat front again. And if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any news.